Pick any woman in this town, Cowboy, the sheriff declared. I choose the obese one. The red sun of Red Mesa 9 was slowly falling behind the Rocky Hills when the cowboy arrived. Dust moved across the empty road like ghosts searching for stories long forgotten. Iron Hollow was not a large town, but it was strong. Wooden buildings stood beside metal towers, old Western signs hung next to glowing alien lights, and tired settlers watched every stranger carefully. No one missed the cowboy. He rode slowly through the main street on a quiet hoverhorse, his long coat moving gently in the wind. His hat hid his eyes, but people could feel that he was watching everything. The sheriff stood outside the town hall, arms crossed, waiting. Sheriff Dalton was old but sharp. His beard was gray and a small mechanical eye glowed softly on one side of his face. When the cowboy stopped, the town became silent. You came, the sheriff said calmly. You sent the signal, the cowboy replied. His voice was low and steady. Some people whispered. Outsiders rarely came to Iron Hollow unless there was trouble. The sheriff nodded slowly. We have a problem, and you are the only one close enough to help. The cowboy looked around the town. He noticed the broken roofs, the tired faces, and the strange tension in the air. Something was wrong here, something deeper than simple crime. What kind of problem? He asked. The sheriff hesitated. Not something we discuss in the street. Come inside. But before they entered the town hall, a loud bell rang across Iron Hollow. People began gathering in the square. The sheriff sighed. I was going to tell you privately, he said, but now we do it the old way. The cowboy followed him to a raised platform. The entire town gathered below, farmers, traders, mechanics, children, and elders. Some looked curious, others looked afraid. The sheriff raised his hand. People of Iron Hollow, he announced. You know why we called this meeting. The storms are coming again. Our scanners show another energy surge from the desert. Murmurs spread quickly. Everyone knew about the storms. They were not normal weather. They destroyed machines, poisoned water, and sometimes made people disappear. We cannot survive another season like this, the sheriff continued. So we sent a signal to the outer systems and help has arrived. All eyes turned toward the cowboy. He felt their judgment, their hope, their doubt. The law of Iron Hollow says that when an outsider accepts our call, the sheriff said, the town must support them fully. And the outsider has one right to choose any partner from our town to help them complete the mission. The crowd reacted instantly. Some laughed nervously. Others stood straighter, hoping to be chosen. The cowboy stayed quiet. He did not like traditions, but he respected local laws. You may choose anyone, the sheriff said, stepping aside. Many people expected him to pick a strong fighter or a respected leader. Some women smiled confidently. Others whispered, trying to guess his choice. The cowboy walked slowly through the crowd. He passed a tall hunter. He passed a skilled pilot. He passed a woman known for surviving desert raids. He did not stop. At the edge of the square, near a small repair shop, stood Mara. She tried to stay invisible. Her clothes were covered in grease, and her hands were rough from working on machines all day. She was heavier than most people in town, and many ignored her because of it. She rarely joined public gatherings. When she saw the cowboy walking toward her, she looked behind her, thinking he was going to someone else. He stopped directly in front of her. I choose her, he said. Silence. Then laughter. Some people shook their heads. Others whispered loudly. The mechanic, someone said. She barely talks. She's not even strong. Mara felt heat rise to her face. She wanted to disappear. You must be joking, a man in the crowd said. The cowboy did not react. His expression stayed calm. What is your name? He asked her gently. Mara, she said quietly. Mara, he repeated, nodding once. The sheriff studied the cowboy carefully. Are you sure you can choose anyone? I already did, the cowboy answered. The sheriff looked at Mara, then back at the cowboy. Slowly, he nodded. Then the choice is accepted. The crowd slowly broke apart, many still whispering. Some were confused, others were amused. Mara stood frozen. Why? She finally asked when most people had left. There are better choices. The cowboy tilted his head slightly. Better for what? For fighting, for traveling. For everything. He looked toward her repair shop. Broken engines and tools were scattered everywhere. You fix things, he said. Yes, she answered slowly, and you don't quit when they seem impossible. She hesitated. That's just my job. He shook his head. No. That is your nature. She did not know what to say. The sheriff walked closer, lowering his voice. You two leave tomorrow morning. The storms are getting stronger. The source is somewhere beyond the Black Canyon. Mara felt fear twist inside her. I'm not an adventurer, she said quickly. Neither was I once, the cowboy replied quietly. The sheriff placed a small device into the cowboy's hand. Coordinates to an old alien site. We believe something there controls the weather. Fix it and you save this town. As the sun fully set, the lights of Iron Hollow turned on, glowing against the dark desert. Myra walked slowly beside the cowboy toward her workshop. People will talk, she said softly. They always do, he answered. She looked at him carefully. Are you making fun of me? He stopped walking. No, he said simply. I chose you because you see the world differently. That matters more than strength. She felt something strange then, not confidence, but curiosity. For the first time, someone had chosen her without hesitation. And as the night wind moved across Iron Hollow, the cowboy and the mechanic prepared for a journey that would change both of their lives. Morning came slowly to Iron Hollow. The red light of the rising sun stretched across the desert, turning the sand into a glowing ocean. Myra stood outside her repair shop, holding a small bag of tools. She had barely slept. Her mind was full of questions. The cowboy was already waiting near the town gate. His hoverhorse stood quietly beside him, metal legs resting on the dusty ground. He looked calm, as if long journeys were normal for him. You're early, Mara said. Storms don't wait, he replied. She nodded nervously. Behind them, a few townspeople watched from a distance. Some were curious. Others still seemed confused about why she had been chosen. The sheriff walked toward them, carrying a small metal case. This contains old data, he said, handing it to the cowboy. Maps from the first settlers. They found ruins far beyond the Black Canyon. That's where you need to go. Mara swallowed. She had heard stories about the Black Canyon, machines failing, strange lights in the sky, and people who never returned. Be careful, the sheriff added. His mechanical eye glowed brighter for a moment. And remember, the ruins react differently to different people. The cowboy gave a short nod. Then he turned toward the desert. Myra took one last look at Iron Hollow before following him. The journey started quietly. The desert stretched endlessly in every direction, broken only by sharp rocks and distant mountains. Small drones flew above them, scanning for danger. Myra walked beside the hoverhorse, occasionally checking the engine pack she carried. You don't talk much, she said after a while. Talking isn't always useful, he replied. She almost laughed. That makes two of us. Hours passed. The heat grew stronger. Strange metallic plants rose from the sand like twisted sculptures. Suddenly, the cowboy raised his hand. Stop! Mara froze. A low growl echoed nearby. From behind a rock formation, a desert predator appeared, a long creature with glowing eyes and armored skin. It circled slowly. Mara's heart raced. The cowboy moved calmly, placing his hand near his blaster but not firing immediately. Stay behind me, he said. The creature lunged forward. In one smooth motion, the cowboy fired a pulse shot that hit the ground in front of it, creating a burst of light. The creature hesitated, then retreated into the desert. Myra released a long breath. That was terrifying. It was curious, not hungry, he said. Most creatures here avoid conflict. She looked at him with surprise. You knew that? I watch patterns, he answered. She thought about that as they continued walking. By midday, they reached an old mining road. Broken vehicles lay half buried in sand. Mara stopped suddenly, eyes shining. This engine, she said, kneeling beside an abandoned machine. It's early colony tech. They stopped making these years ago. The cowboy watched quietly as she opened the panel and examined the wiring. You really love machines, he said. They make sense, she replied. People are harder. He did not argue. As the sun began to fall again, they made camp near a cluster of rocks. The sky turned deep orange and purple. Myra sat near the fire, adjusting a small scanner device. Why did you really choose me? She asked finally. He stared into the fire for a long moment. Because you notice things others ignore, he said. She frowned. That's not special. It is, he replied. Most people look for strength or beauty, few look for understanding. She did not know how to respond. No one had ever spoken about her like that. After a long silence, he continued. The device we search for is alien technology. It doesn't respond to force. It responds to balance, logic, and emotion together. And you think I have that? I know you do. The words stayed with her long after the fire burned low. The next morning, the landscape changed. Black rock formations rose like giant shadows. The air felt heavier, charged with energy. Small sparks danced across the sand. The Black Canyon, the cowboy said. Mara felt nervous excitement. As they entered the canyon, her tools began to beep loudly. "Energy readings are rising," she said. Suddenly, engines roared behind them. Mara turned quickly. 3 hover bikes appeared, riders wearing dark armor, mercenaries. The cowboy stepped forward calmly. "Stay close," he said quietly. The mercenaries stopped nearby. One removed his helmet, revealing a scarred face. "Hand over the coordinates," he demanded. "We know what you're looking for." The cowboy did not move. "This isn't your fight," the mercenary added. "Walk away." Mara felt fear, but she also felt anger. These people wanted to take something dangerous without understanding it. The cowboy spoke slowly. "Last warning, leave." The mercenary laughed. Blaster fire suddenly filled the air. The cowboy moved fast, using the rocks for cover. Mara hid behind a broken pillar, heart pounding. She watched as he fired precise shots that disabled their weapons without harming them seriously. Within minutes, the mercenaries retreated, engines roaring as they escaped. Silence returned. Mara stepped forward carefully. "Are they coming back?" "Yes," he said. "They won't give up easily." She nodded, feeling the weight of their mission more clearly now. Ahead of them, hidden between canyon walls, a massive structure slowly appeared, ancient metal towers rising from the ground, covered in strange, glowing symbols. The alien ruins. Mara stared in awe. "This is real," she whispered. The cowboy watched her reaction. "Yes," he said. "And whatever waits inside will change everything." Together, they walked toward the entrance, unaware that the greatest challenge was not outside the ruins, but within themselves. The entrance to the alien ruins stood like a silent giant waiting for them. Tall metal pillars rose from the sand, glowing softly with blue lines that moved like flowing water. The air felt heavy, filled with energy that made Mara's skin tingle. She stopped just before the doorway. "Are you sure this place is safe?" she asked quietly. The cowboy studied the structure. His eyes moved across the symbols as if he was reading a language only he understood. "No," he said honestly, "but it's necessary." Mara took a deep breath. She adjusted the tool belt around her waist and stepped forward beside him. As they crossed the entrance, the light inside the ruins brightened suddenly. Soft humming filled the air. The walls shifted slowly, forming new pathways. It felt like the building itself was alive. Mara's scanner beeped rapidly. "It's reacting to us," she said. The cowboy nodded. "Stay close." They walked through a long corridor made of smooth metal that reflected faint images of their shadows. Strange symbols appeared under their feet as they moved. Mara noticed something unusual. "The lights change when I walk," she said. The cowboy paused and watched carefully. She stepped forward again, and the glowing lines followed her movement. "It's recognizing you," he said. Her heart beat faster. "Why me?" "We will find out," he answered. Further inside, they reached a large circular chamber. Floating panels rotated slowly in the air, showing unknown star maps. In the center stood a tall, crystal-like structure pulsing with energy. Mara stared in awe. "This technology, it's beyond anything I've seen." She walked closer carefully, examining the edges, noticing small openings and patterns hidden in the design. "It's not random," she whispered. "It's like a puzzle." The cowboy stayed alert, watching for danger while she explored. Suddenly, the walls shifted again, and a deep sound echoed through the chamber. A holographic figure appeared, tall, made of light, speaking in a language neither of them understood. Mara's scanner translated slowly. "System searching for compatible operator." The words repeated again and again. "Operator," she said. The hologram moved toward her, scanning her face and hands. Light surrounded her gently. She felt nervous but did not step back. "Why is it choosing me?" she asked quietly. The cowboy's voice was calm. "Because you understand systems. Machines trust those who listen." The hologram flashed brighter. Images appeared around them, storms destroying landscapes, cities falling, planets turning dark. "Planetary stabilization system damaged," the translation said. "Operator required." Mara realized the truth. "This device controls the weather," she said. "If we repair it, we can stop the storms." Before she could continue, loud footsteps echoed behind them. The mercenaries had followed them. Blaster lights flashed as they entered the chamber. "Step away from the core," the leader shouted. "That technology belongs to us now." The cowboy moved quickly, placing himself between Mara and the attackers. "You don't understand what this does," he said. "We understand power," the mercenary replied coldly. A tense standoff filled the room. The glowing crystal pulsed faster, reacting to the rising danger. Mara looked at the floating panels. She noticed a sequence repeating, a pattern hidden within the light. "If they damage this place, the whole system could collapse," she whispered urgently. The cowboy fired a precise shot, forcing the mercenaries to take cover. Energy bolts hit the walls, creating sparks that lit the chamber like lightning. Mara forced herself to focus despite the chaos. She opened a control panel and began adjusting the interface. "Come on, talk to me," she murmured, treating the machine like an old engine. The hologram responded, changing symbols into a language she could understand more clearly. "Emotional resonance required," she froze. "Emotional resonance?" The cowboy glanced back at her while defending against another attack. "What does that mean?" "I think," she hesitated. "I think it needs someone who can balance logic and feeling, not just commands." She closed her eyes for a moment, remembering years of being ignored, years of fixing broken things while people overlooked her. "I see you," she whispered to the machine. The lights shifted instantly. Energy surrounded her gently, like a warm wind. The mercenaries noticed and fired again, trying to interrupt. The cowboy moved faster, disarming one attacker and forcing the others back. His movements were precise, almost effortless, but his focus never left Mara. "You're doing good," he said calmly. Mara opened her eyes. The interface became clearer. Symbols turned into understandable shapes. She began aligning energy flows like repairing wires. But suddenly the chamber darkened. An illusion appeared around her, memories of people laughing at her, ignoring her, judging her. Voices echoed softly. "You're not enough. You don't belong." Her hands trembled. The cowboy saw her struggle. "Mara," he called firmly, "it's testing you. Don't believe it." She took a deep breath. "This isn't real," she said softly. The illusion faded slightly. She remembered what the cowboy had said, that she saw things others ignored, that her patience mattered. Slowly, she steadied her hands and continued working. The core reacted instantly, glowing brighter than before. Energy waves spread through the chamber. The mercenaries stopped fighting, staring in shock. "What is she doing?" one whispered. The hologram spoke again. "Operator confirmed." Mara felt a rush of warmth. The machine accepted her, but suddenly alarms began to sound. Structural instability detected. The energy surge was too strong. The walls began shaking. Pieces of metal fell from above. "We need to leave," the cowboy said urgently. "But the system isn't fully stable yet," she replied. "It won't help anyone if we're buried here." She hesitated only a second before closing the interface. The cowboy grabbed her hand, guiding her toward the exit as the ruins began collapsing behind them. They ran through shifting corridors, lights flashing around them. Finally, they burst out into the desert just as the entrance sealed itself with a deep rumble. Mara fell to her knees, breathing heavily. Did we succeed?" she asked. The cowboy looked toward the sky. The distant storm clouds slowed, their movement changing slightly. "We started something," he said, "but the real test is still ahead." Mara stood slowly, watching the sky with new determination. For the first time, she didn't feel invisible, she felt chosen. And she knew the final battle for Iron Hollow had only just begun. The desert wind moved slowly across the Black Canyon as Mara and the cowboy stood outside the sealed alien ruins. Dust rose around their boots while the sky above shifted with strange colors. The storm clouds were still there, but something had changed. The violent lightning that once filled the sky now moved more slowly, almost as if it was waiting. Mara watched carefully. "The system responded," she said quietly, "but it isn't finished yet." The cowboy nodded. "Then we go back to town." They began their journey toward Iron Hollow. The path felt different now. Myra walked with more confidence, her steps stronger. She still felt nervous, but she also felt something new, purpose. As they crossed the desert, her scanner continued to glow softly. Energy signals flowed toward the town like invisible rivers. "What if I make a mistake?" she asked suddenly. The cowboy did not look at her when he answered. "Everyone makes mistakes," he said calmly. "What matters is continuing anyway." She thought about his words for a long time. By the time they reached the hills near Iron Hollow, the sky had turned dark again. The storm had grown larger, swirling above the town like a giant shadow. Lightning flashed across the clouds. Mara's heart tightened. "It's stronger than before," she said. "Yes," the cowboy replied. "The system is active now. That means it will either stabilize or collapse." They walked faster. When the town finally appeared, people were running through the streets, securing buildings and moving supplies. The sheriff stood in the center of the square, giving orders. He looked up when he saw them. "You made it back," he said, relief clear in his voice. "Not finished yet," the cowboy answered. Mara stepped forward quickly. "The alien device accepted me as the operator, but the system needs a final calibration. If we don't complete it, the storm might destroy everything." The sheriff nodded without hesitation. "Tell us what to do." She looked around, surprised by the trust in his voice. "We need power sources," she said. "Every generator you have." Within minutes, the townspeople began working together. Large cables were connected to old machines. Lights flickered across Iron Hollow. Mara climbed onto a raised platform where she could see the sky clearly. The small control device she carried activated, projecting glowing symbols into the air. Her hands trembled slightly. The cowboy stood nearby, watching quietly. "You're not alone," he said softly. She nodded. The storm grew louder. Thunder shook the ground. Dust flew through the streets. Mara focused on the symbols. "Aligning energy streams," she murmured, adjusting the controls. The alien device responded, sending a beam of light into the sky. The clouds reacted instantly, twisting and shifting. People watched in silence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the wind became violent. The beam flickered. Mara felt panic rising. "It's too unstable," she said. "I can't hold the balance." The cowboy stepped closer. "Remember what you told the machine," he said calmly. "You see patterns others miss." She closed her eyes briefly, breathing slowly. The storm wasn't random. The energy moved like a living system. She began adjusting the flow differently, not forcing it, but guiding it. Slowly, the lightning changed direction. The clouds began separating. A deep silence spread as the storm weakened. People looked at the sky with disbelief. Mara's hands moved with growing confidence. The device glowed brighter, responding perfectly. Finally, the last wave of thunder faded. The storm broke apart, leaving behind clear skies and soft sunlight. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then cheers filled Iron Hollow. Mara lowered the device, exhausted but smiling slightly. "You did it," the sheriff said, stepping forward. "We did it," she corrected, looking at the townspeople who had helped. Many of the same people who had laughed at her before now looked at her with respect. One woman approached carefully. "Thank you," she said quietly. Mara felt warmth in her chest. The cowboy watched silently from a distance. Later that evening, the town gathered again in the square. Lantern lights glowed softly while music played quietly. The atmosphere felt lighter than it had in years. The sheriff stood beside Mara. "You saved Iron Hollow," he said. She shook her head gently. "I just fixed something broken." "That's what heroes do," he replied. Across the square, the cowboy prepared his gear. His hoverhorse waited patiently. Mara walked toward him. "You're leaving," she said. "That was always the plan," he answered. She hesitated. "Why did you really choose me?" He looked at her directly. "Because you never stopped trying, even when nobody noticed," he said. "That kind of strength saves worlds." She felt her throat tighten. "What happens now?" she asked. He glanced toward the horizon. "You decide." He paused before continuing. "You can stay here. The town needs someone who understands the system, or you can travel with me. There are many places like this, many people who need someone who sees differently." The idea felt both exciting and frightening. Mara looked around Iron Hollow, the repair shop, the people, the place where she had once felt invisible. Then she looked at the endless desert beyond. "I don't know yet," she admitted. He nodded. "You don't have to decide today." He climbed onto his hoverhorse. As he turned to leave, he stopped once more. "You were never invisible," he said quietly. "They just didn't know where to look." With that, he rode toward the horizon, disappearing slowly into the golden light. Myra stood watching until he was gone. Behind her, the town of Iron Hollow felt different now, not just safer, but changed. People spoke to her with respect. Children ran past laughing. The sky remained clear. A new story had begun. And across the frontier world of Red Mesa 9, travelers would soon speak about a legend, the mechanic nobody saw and the cowboy who recognized her true strength.